Hello. This, if you're listening to this, to my voice right now, is a private one that I'm sending out. I don't care if someone else eavesdrop on it, but just keep in mind it wasn't meant for you. This is to MrRickjitsu, where he and I were talking about a point he just found, and I had one that I thought I had found somewhat similar to it, and it's not really working, is it? Okay, so let me try this over here. Well, anyway, here's the one. Here's my too much light. Here's my okie point that I thought was similar to yours. Let me see if I can get this camera working on it. Sorry, the doggone thing just isn't going to work for me like I wanted it to, but here's what I got. It's a pretty cool little point, and it's defied description. There's nothing in the books that say, hey, this is, look how thin that thing is. Golly, it's just like wafer thin, but it's perfectly flaked. The napping runs on all sides. I mean, it's not like it was just a flake blade that someone sharpened up in the shape of an arrowhead. I mean, this thing here is flaked on all sides. But anyway, I thought this here was pretty similar to that one that you found. And I don't know what you're calling it. It's, I forget. But anyway, and while I'm at it, this here's kind of a cool okie I got that's really almost very similar shape, slightly different. But, I thought I'd go ahead and just show off a few of my little Cahokias as well. Take a look at that little baby. Golly, what a beauty. And here's a few others. Little Cahokia kids. And this guy here is super translucent. Everyone talks about translucence. Okay, let's see. How translucent is it? There it is. Mr. Bullwinkle. Hey, Rucky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. That trick never works. Okay, now here is one of my coolest things that I love. It's a, gotta find somewhere where it looks good. This is my little Arrowhead drill. I mean, golly, why did they make things like that? Do you have any insight on what Arrowhead was all about? I don't really, except that just everything they made had 2 points on it, which is, so cool. You get like twice as much. Plus, that's got this weird little twisty thing going on, which is, I guess really important when you got a drill. But, and here's a couple other little okie points while I'm at it that were little sweeties. I'll show you this one again that I was putting up there to possibly be the same thing as what you showed in your video yesterday. And here, I don't know if you have any idea what we find out here in California, but now here's an example of what all the local guys are like. These are called MALAGA coves. And they're a pretty boring style of point for all you guys because they're just leaves. And you guys don't understand how cool it is to have things that have got all these wild notches and double notches and all this kind of stuff, when like 99% of everything you find out here is just a little leaf. Except for, oh yeah, I forgot my one killer awesome desert side notch. What a baby doll this one has here. Let me try and get a good shot of that. Paper thin. I mean wasp paper thin. perfectly notched, perfectly symmetrical. No twists in the blades, no nothing. Found that out on one little hill out in the middle of the desert where my buddy had found two more about 3 years earlier. And I had always said to him, man, come on, take me back out to that spot. And he'd say, okay, well, look, I got to tell by the, I don't remember what it's like because it's in this about a 6 square mile area of the desert that is totally nondescript and compared to anything else. So he and I took his old photos that he took of his in situ photos of finding those other two awesome little desert side notches. And here's a little clear agate point. And so we sat there and figured out, and even then it took us like about 6 hours of hiking to find that hill. But what I did, I walked, when I say a hill, I mean it's like about 6 feet tall, and about, maybe 15, 20 feet across, and it's just got a bush growing on the top of it is the only reason why it's, this here was my very first Chumash arrowhead I ever found, a tricolor point. Ooh, that was so cool for me. I was so happy. It was totally black with mud and dirt when the guy I was with found it, and he was the first guy I ever saw who did the washing machine or the car wash, this kettle closet. But he threw this thing in his mouth, and I mean, he spit out a big glob of just nothing but mud. There was so, and this beautiful little point came out like that, and he was like envious. He had just taken me to this site and showed me how to find these kind of really cool arrowheads that had been defeating me. I'd been finding all kinds of big pestles and bowls and matates and was having horrible luck finding any of the local points. And so anyway, so when I go out to this place in the desert and we finally get out there, I walk up, and I mean, I'm there for about a minute, and I can see this thing here looking at me. Oh my gosh, my buddy had promised me that anything we found out there was going to be mine. And I could see instantly he regretted having made that promise to me. But boy, I held him to it, man. I mean, this thing here, I could slip my wrist with this little guy's tip. It's so sharp. This was made by the Mojaves Indians, who were just the most badass guys there ever were out there. They would routinely raid the Chumash, and the way they would do it is they would like run all day and all night for a couple of days, raid a Chumash village, burn it down, run off with chain up about a dozen women and children, and run them all back out into the desert as slaves. I mean, everybody was afraid of those except for the Luiseños. They were down around up above Escondido in the mountains up there. And those guys were so scary. Even other Escondido Indians were afraid to cross Escondido territory without permission because it was just a standard operating procedure. If anybody else was on your land and they hadn't asked permission, even if they were like your fairly close relative, like your brother-in-law or something, you were honor bound to kill him if he hadn't asked you for permission. But typically they suffered for it because they made all of their points out of quartz. They were the only things they had. It was the only type of material in their boundaries, and nobody else would trade with them because they were so freaking warlike. It's like, why would you sell somebody deadly warfare munitions when you knew like a week later he was going to use it on you, Now, here was a really nice agate. Beautiful agate. Malaga Cove. I found one of the biggest Malaga Coves I ever found out of this really black, glossy, beautiful agate. I love black agate. Now here's one that always kind of threw me. It's a kind of a weird phenomenon. It's a beautiful little point that almost looks like a Clovis, and it doesn't match any of the styles around here. And I'm almost sure that some, fairly recent Indian, and this is an arrowhead for sure, found a Clovis and said, well, look, wonder what it would be like to, put that onto a, arrowhead design and try it out. I've known other people that had similar experiences where they found some type of point that was fairly common, that was like a great big atlatl point that some later day, bow and arrow guy had found one of the big. Yes, at some point there in the middle of the story, my camera had died on me. But so let's just forget what I was talking about. It was kind of dumb anyway, I'm sure. But anyway, here, just for the heck of it, is one. Well, I've got two cases here. Now these are from North Carolina. And this was the most prolific hunt we ever had. We found all of the, me and one other guy, found all of these things here in 2 days of hunting in North Carolina on a construction site where they were pushing out a bunch of woods, and then a big hurricane had kind of blown over the top. Not really a hurricane anymore, but the tropical storm part of it at that point blew over the top of them. And man, we just found the heck out of all this stuff. And we found all these things in 2 days. And now this is just one of them. Hold on for a second. I also found this one here. I found all of these in 2 days. Now, I was used to finding like a couple of arrowheads in a day of hard hunting like it is out here. Look at this weird thing. Talk about some clear quartz crystal. Man, it's a scraper. I got a couple of points out of quartz crystal that I've been planning on showing off eventually. But boy, look at that. That was a real treat for me to find something out of quartz crystal. Anyway, I'm just filling in a little bit of goofball here. Here's a handheld drill that I found from back there that I always thought was really cool. And a little perfectly round scraper, which is always fun. And then here was I think a Stanley narrow blade, just had a tiny little ancient dink in the deal. But I pulled this guy here out of a track of a bulldozer, man. I mean, a bulldozer had literally been right on top of this thing and spun and didn't break it a bit. The damage that you see there is very, very, very ancient when it lost that little shoulder. Okay, that's all for now. I just wanted to be faithful and follow through with. I was talking trash about having a Okie point that I couldn't find that I thought was really similar, but I'm really kind of curious as to whether you think that's maybe the same thing as yours or not. Okay, hey, have a good one, Rick. Sure enjoy the discourse with you back and forth. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, bud. Good luck.